Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win, and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Brian Portnoy of Shaping Wealth, Molly Pierce of Track That Advisor, and Brian Edelman of FCI Cyber. Today, I get to speak with Andy Schwartz, the CEO of 1 Point BFG Wealth Partners. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using Quick, you'll be able to generate completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I'm really excited. Andy Schwartz, the co-founder, CEO, and managing partner of 1 Point BFG, also formerly known as Bleakley Financial Group, is a premier financial planning and wealth management firm dedicated to delivering tailored financial strategies to individuals, families, and businesses. Andy is a certified financial planner and has 40 years of experience in the financial planning industry, co-founding 1 Point BFG in 1984. He also still has the firm's largest book of business because he is the ultimate player coach. Andy, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Hey, thanks. Great to be here.
All right. So for those who haven't heard my podcast before, I just love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges they face to growing their own company. So Andy, let's understand your business better. How does your company help people?
Well, I think the most important thing, Rich, is that we understand our role and we understand that serving our clients is a privilege for us. I think a lot of people in my industry, and maybe they're smarter, so they think how smart they are and how fortunate their clients are to have them. Well, we view the business a little differently. There are hundreds of thousands of financial advisors in America. We view it as how lucky are we that these people choose us to let us serve them. It's a trust thing. It's an enormous responsibility. I always like to say to my advisors that if we are advising a client, if we are their advisor, that means someone else isn't. So think about the responsibility of that for a second. You know, you might want to do, and I don't want to use bad language, a half-assed job with a client. But if you do a half-assed job with that client, you have prevented somebody else from doing an excellent job for that client. And so To us, the responsibility is that we want to dig in. The thing that we're best at is listening, because I've got a call tomorrow that I'm excited about with a new prospective client. I can't wait to understand everything about her. I want to understand about her, her kids, what's important, her planning, everything about her. I have very little interest in talking about me tomorrow. I just want to talk to her and learn about her. And I think if everybody could approach that way and feel that responsibility, we would certainly be better advisors. But we want to be that one point of contact, for our clients. I want to be the first call. I might not be the last call, and we have a pretty big stable, and we don't do everything. But most things financially related, if we can't do it in-house, we know where to go to get the answers. So that's kind of how we view it.
No, I love this perspective. And it's really making me think, sorry, this is going to go off the rails here really fast.
That's okay. It's okay.
Do you find yourself living vicariously with your clients?
I do. The greatest part about my business is that I have this window, because again, I've been doing this for over 40 years. The first thing that's interesting is how many ways people can make money. There's the strangest, most bizarre ways, things that you can't even imagine, that people can become fabulously financially successful, and sometimes by accident. Someone I worked with years ago, and he was doing he was like a longshoreman in Alaska or something. Probably didn't go to college. He didn't know what to do, so he's in Alaska because his dad was there, and they were doing some menial job, but they paid them well. And then he came back, and he needed a job, so he's working like the overnight at Holiday Inn. At the desk, right? Overnight. Yeah. And what he realized, and this is years ago, that they were booking a lot of these stewardesses or flight attendants and pilots. And so he starts to think about this. He builds a business, fabulously successful business, by going direct to the airlines to be the person that books, and doesn't own the hotel. He's just the guy that was working at a hotel. And he built a
Yeah.
whole business out of this. And then ultimately, he transacts out of that business. It's so fascinating to be part of, the journey. And so we get to live through it when clients start a business, operate a business, grow a business, and then sell a business. And you have a front row seat to that. It's fantastic. It's the best part of my business. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that is so amazing to hear that. It is. I mean, look, I'm a father now of 10 years, and I feel like I'm reliving my childhood through their childhood, right? And yet I don't feel that with my employees, like living through their experiences. I don't necessarily feel that with my customers because they're using our services in so many different ways. What a unique opportunity you have to see
It's
this.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow. But look, I'll go back to your core premise because I love this idea of you guys are the one point that you're truly there to listen to your clients, understand their needs, be all about them. And you're right. It is a privilege. I was an advisor and there's so much trust that goes into that. So I just love this perspective. Do you think this is something you started the business with or you developed over time?
Yeah, I think it's either in you or it's not. And look, we started this business in 1984 after we graduated college. It was actually the genesis was an insurance. We were basically selling life insurance.
Yeah.
We were CFPs by 86. Nobody was a CFP. I had a couple of partners at the time, really senior by about a year. So, we were all basically kids. But we had the idea that we wanted to do planning. But I always felt that it was a privilege that these people would give me their money or their premiums and that they trusted me to make that decision for them. And so I always did. It was just something that was innate to me. I don't know why it's not innate to everybody, but it certainly was innate to me. I want to believe that they always win because we are really good advisors and we care about them, take care of them. But I always know we always win because they trust us and give us the right to work with them. It's a lot of pressure. People will say to me, there's so much pressure. You have their money, and
Yeah.
the old expression, money never sleeps. And, we're a 7-day a week job. I get emails and text messages, 7 days a week. It's not unusual for us to be on the phone on the weekends. I don't schedule appointments on the weekends. I'm not a lunatic. But people ask me, but they'll ask me like between the firm business, because we're $16 billion. We're on our way to 50. There's a lot of people here. We're about 220, 230 people now. So it is a lot of responsibility. We have 17 or 18 offices around the country. We've got our main office here in Parsippany, where I am today. It's a lot of pressure, I guess, but I kind of think of pressure as a privilege. I think a lot of people in the world wish that they had the privilege of the pressure that I have. I
Yeah.
years ago, I
Yeah.
did a lot of speaking at my old broker dealer. And I used to say that when I envision in the future, because I think it's really important how you visualize your life. And I think that your expectations really drive pretty much your success. And life is intentional. And so I would say that I'm envisioning 10 years from now, and this is maybe when I was 26 years old and I'm hustling life insurance policies. I'm trying so hard just to have appointments, and just be able to make a living. But that I imagine that someday I would go into my office and I'd go in the back door because the waiting room would be full of people, and I would be complaining as I'm going down the back that I have to talk to all of these people today and sign all these insurance applications, which means I'm making all this money. But that was sort of my fantasy. And it isn't exactly that way because I'm not necessarily in that business so much anymore. But it's kind of that way where I have 10 or 12 appointments a day, where there's always something going on, where it's really crazy, hectic, but it is such a privilege. The pressure is a huge privilege.
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to my product owner, Jason McCarty, on my team because he brought that phrase to our company. Pressure is a privilege.
It is.
And I love that concept because I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm a type A times a type A person. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've been driving this company for 24 years now, frankly. So I haven't caught up to your 40. I'll get there. But yeah, having that pressure to exceed your client expectation, to meet client expectations, sometimes that's all you can do. To keep the team motivated and engaged and excited is such an amazing feeling. And honestly, Andy, one of the things that really bothers me is the concept of exiting. If I were to exit, where would the pressure come from? What would my purpose be? Where would I do? You guys have obviously gone through acquisition, merger, something.
Yeah.
So how has that decision affected you?
Yeah. So we took a long time. We did a minority deal. So I have a wonderful, wonderful minority partner. So we like to tell people that we are private equity invested but not owned, because private
Rare.
equity for most entrepreneurs, I think private equity is not a positive thing. And they're good for a good reason. They're really smart guys, basically trying to buy our businesses for a lot less than they're worth, so they can sell them for a lot more than they're worth. And so
Yeah.
we have to be aware. But so we went through the process for several years, mostly because we needed capital and we wanted to grow the business. I was fortunate, and what I would say to anyone out there, no matter what business you're in, if you're looking to do something like we did where you need capital and you want to grow your business, don't just take the money. And it isn't about who gives you the biggest multiple. Find a partner that can give you intellectual lift and capacity. We were fortunate enough to find a partner. Joe Duran, for people that are in our business, know who Joe Duran is. Rise Growth Partners, great team. They were actually able to give us real lift, where my business 18 months later, which is when we started this process with them, is a different business. We had the bones, we had the business, but they gave us tremendous operational lift. They had some skill sets that we didn't have, and it doesn't sit on my P&L. So I would say, don't just take the highest multiple. Don't take your highest bidder. Take a partner that can help you grow. I always say, when I'm looking at an acquisition, if you were an advisor I was talking to, I would say, Rich, there's three things that have to be true for me to want you to join me. And we're not an aggregator, and we say no way more times than we say yes. I have lots and lots of conversations every week, and I get off the phone. I'm always very polite, and I say to my guys, no,
Yeah.
it's not a good fit. But there's three things that have to be true. First, you have to be happy after. And you should ask yourself the same thing if you're going to bring on a minority, and certainly if you're selling your business to a majority partner. Will I be happy after? Most important, right? Rex, your culture. You have children, I have children. We're only as happy as what our most unhappy child. I don't need unhappy advisors. The second is we have to be able to help them grow. So if it's an acquisition, they have to be able to help you grow. We have to be able to help an advisor grow, or why would they join us? Because we don't give them any lift, so don't do it. And then the third is the long-term economics have to work. So presumably, whatever you're doing, there's going to be another bite at this apple. And so the economics of whatever that is has to work. Well, for us, it's the same. Our equity value will be so much more valuable than theirs. And so, but I think that's true for anyone talking about merger, minority sale or majority sale. That I think that's a good litmus test. And those are the questions people have to ask, not who's paying the highest multiple,
Yeah.
not how can I get out of this thing quicker. I think those are the things that we want to focus on.
Andy, I'm selfishly going to turn this back to the customer wins theme
Oh,
because,
please.
you actually have at least two different customers. You have your clients, your investor clients, but you
Great
also have
point.
your advisors as clients
Yes,
that you're
yes,
trying to
yes.
attract. And everything you just said is about the journey and the experience that you're trying to create for them and help them see and want to be part of. And this really talks to me about transformation, because you're taking somebody through a transformation to be part of your firm. They went from independent, or they went from wirehouse or wherever you're finding them, to transform to your way of looking at the world, of really it's a privilege to serve your clients the way you do. So I want to acknowledge that, because you have a lot of clarity on that. And so I'm kind of curious, who then is attracted to you? How do they come across you and find you and say, this is where I want to be?
Yeah. I mean, look, so it's a great, I actually have three constituents: the client first, the advisor second, and then the people that work here third. So
Of
we
course,
kind of
yeah.
see it as all three are really, really important. And it's a huge responsibility for sure. We've been doing this a long time, so we attract a lot of advisors because they know us. When we did our deal, 80% of we were a 1099 shop, meant that we were a bunch of independent contractors. The big problem that most firms have is when they want to go from 1099 advisor groups to a W-2 model, which is what everyone has to do to create value. It's very difficult to do that because
Yeah.
people are like, I've never been a W-2. I want to be in control, whatever. It was not hard for us because they trusted us. And so what I would say is, if you're running a business and you someday want to do something like we've done, or you want to build a business that can ultimately be a W-2 firm and something that has value, then you better do what you say you're going to do with your advisors. Advisors all win all ties. For the last 30 years, the guy comes in and says, well, could you pay for this instead of me pay for this? We'd look around and say, yes. Advisors win all ties. Clients always win all ties. That's easy. Their clients are
Yeah.
always right. and at the same time, always do what you say. And because you have to build trust. If you can build trust, and so what we've been able to do over the last almost 40 years, we've been able to build trust in the community, in the broad community. So that, I spent a lot of time, 30 years at a broker dealer with lots and lots of advice. We've had lots and lots of people that have worked with us over the years, have listened to us. We do a lot of teaching. I do a podcast. I do a podcast really because I love the opportunity to share things that I know. We don't make any money at it. It's not a venture. I don't want to be Joe Rogan. I have two side hustles. I've got a full plate. There's nothing I enjoy more though than teaching an advisor how to make more money. And the way I look at it is, God gave me a gift. My parents gave me a gift. They raised us properly. I was lucky enough to find a business that I could do something with. Look, I went to Glassboro State College, and probably for two reasons. I had no money and I had really low SAT scores. So that's a confession I'll make, to just two of us. So at the end of the day, I wasn't supposed to be uber successful. People always say, oh, Andrew. I go, oh, no, I'm Andy. My mom had very low expectations. My mom was 16 years old when my brother and I were born. Yeah,
wow.
16. So I was lucky from the start just to be here.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, that's how we sort of look at this. So I've been able to be very, very financially successful, which is great. But what's really great is I've been able to help hundreds, if not thousands of advisors become very financially successful. And I get a call every week. When we talk to these advisors that join us, they'll say to me, I was driving around with your tapes in like the 90s. They'll say to me, you were the reason that I didn't fail in the business. And I would say, no, you're the reason you didn't fail. But I love the idea that I might have helped them. And so the leverage of that, it's like unbelievable. So it hasn't just been about what we've been able to create here. We've been able to create leverage everywhere. And I would say one other thing, when you think about that thought, people will say, what motivates you to continue to work? It isn't really money anymore. I'm kind of working on my grandson's money now. But when people say, because a lot of advisors are what we would call lifestyle advisors. We call them zoo-fed bears. We would be nicer and say they're lifestyle advisors. But you're making enough money. Why are you working so hard? People all the time, what are you doing? Why do you work so hard? I have a beautiful place in Florida. I rarely get to this winter because we're too busy. The way I look at this, though, is if you have an opportunity, you've got an opportunity in your business, we have an opportunity in our business. If you don't really fulfill that opportunity, and it isn't because you need to make more money, think about what you can do with the money. How much money you could give away? How many other kids' colleges can you pay for? How many people in your family can you help? You could start just making gifts every year to all of your friends. It's allowed, 19,000 a year per. If you have a chance to do that, why would you not do that? Like, why would you squander that? So to me, it's like, I hate wasting food. I hate throwing away food. I hate wasting I hate wasting opportunity. And so that's my people. I gave 10% of my stock to my team. It's
I think that stems from where you came from, right? Because you're talking about your roots are not wealthy. Mine aren't either. I was on welfare as a kid. I moved all the time. I had all sorts of strife and challenges. So wealth was always an illusion. And I savor everything at this point. But I want to point something else out, Andy. When you talked about that it's a privilege to serve your clients, and if you don't do it, and if you only do it half-assed, somebody else is missing the opportunity to do it better, right? So one of the things I'm hearing in what you're talking about is, if you take that lifestyle advisor who is just resting and just enjoying, if they don't have a succession plan because they're just enjoying and they're just going to ride it out, that's a disservice to their client. Absolutely. To not create enterprise value in their company so they can pass it on to somebody else is a disservice to that client and doesn't fit the ethos of who you are and your company culture. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. Look, we have a responsibility. I've got two, what we would call junior partners on my team, soon to be three. And I always say to clients for the first time when we're introduced to somebody, listen, the main reason they're here is because if God forbid something happens to me, and as my hair gets grayer and grayer and I start to lose more and more of it, people ask, how long are you going to be here? And I say, well, how long am I going to be on the planet, or how long am I going to work? Is there something to be aware of? And they say, well, that's why Alexis is on every call, because someone needs to be intimately involved in every client's situation. We've got a team of 10 and everybody knows everybody, but someone needs to be on those calls because we owe them, that transition if God forbid And what a responsibility when you're ready to retire. It's great that you've made enough money that you're ready to retire, but what are you going to do? Just leave these people in a lurch? I mean, they
Yeah.
trusted you, to walk away. So no, if I could do this till I was 200, I would. I know I can't, so I do. I struggle with that. I want to take care of those people forever, and I know I don't have forever. So we're building that out so that, they can be served as well as we serve them, but really big
Yeah.
responsibility. And for enterprise value, there's lots of things to create enterprise value, but that's one of them. There has to be succession planning, and these people have to
Yeah.
have an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I love how passionate you are about what you do. You found your calling, and not everybody can say that
100%.
in life.
Very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah. So I want to point out something else, that customer experience is often driven by the platform of your company culture. And how do you think your company culture developed? Because it's certainly strong, and it's certainly presenting who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just who we are. It's always tell the truth. Do what you say you're going to do. Treat people the way, you would want to be treated. We've always paid our people really well. We've always recognized that turnover is just so corrosive. It's the most damaging thing to any business. I talk to people in the service businesses like mine or other service businesses, and the people just come and go. They tend to be type A's. They're too hard on people. People are like, I don't need this aggravation. We're tough too because we're very demanding, but we pay them. So we pay what would you call that? But like combat pay. So we pay them so much, but also we appreciate what they do for us. And I don't care if they need to take some time, take some time. If you want to work from home on Friday, work from home on Friday. It's just get the work done. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as everybody gets the work done and they're responsible, for what they're supposed to be responsible with our clients, then work with them. And I've always told people, we are typically successful in our business, so you're an advisor, you make lots of money, you underpay your people, your secretary can't afford to have her roof fixed. And meanwhile, you belong to two country clubs and you're always on vacation. And I always ask, what do you want that woman to say when a client calls in on a Friday afternoon? Because she's got choices. And they can say, is Andy in? And my people would say, he's on another call or he's on another appointment. Can I send you to Paul? Can I help you? Or I'll get Andy back to you whenever. Or they could say, it's Friday. It's Friday. Andy never works on a Friday.
You're right. He's always golfing
He's
on
always
Friday. What are you
golfing. As a matter of fact, we haven't seen him all week. I don't want people that are talking to my clients pissed off at me because I'm rich and they're poor. It doesn't make any sense. So we've always had a culture of sharing. I mean, everybody in our manager team has equity. I gave a ton of my equity away to my immediate team. My goal is that someday, when we recap and we're in this for the long term, but there will be a transaction that yes, I will make lots and lots of money, but so will they. And their life is going to change way more than mine because I'm good. I'm not going to buy another house. I'm not going to buy another car. I'm good. But their lives are going to change. That's exciting to me.
Oh, yeah.
People say, what motivates me in the morning? That we have an opportunity here to change a lot of lives. There's going to be a couple hundred people when we're done whose lives are going to change because of the work we're doing. And that's really cool.
I share that with you, Andy. I do. I take the responsibility of leadership and feeding the people whose paychecks come out of this company really, really seriously. And one of the things I absolutely love seeing is people advance their career in our company and grow in their wealth and grow in their income, grow in their responsibility, and enjoy what they're doing. That gives me so much joy in building this company. I love that.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears on us because we don't have a whole lot of time. On the one hand, I'd be remiss not to ask this question, but I'm also wondering when this question is no longer something people want to talk about. So in your firm, where is artificial intelligence playing a role? What are you seeing the impact on your company and this culture that you have?
It's I met this afternoon for an hour with my COO and my head of technology, and it's a big conversation. What I would say is this. I did a podcast during the week and someone had said something about, will we be replaced? And the answer is no, we will not be replaced as advisors. I do think there's a segment of the market that will be different, meaning that the lower end of the market will probably be much more robo, AI. And that's, partly because the kids that are coming up are much more tech savvy, much less relationship connected, it seems to me, and driven. But that's okay though, because that's not the space we're in. We're in the high net worth, ultra high net worth. And those people that are busy running businesses, they don't want to do this for themselves. But what I will say is this, if you're not embracing AI, really embracing it, then you're going to be in trouble. And you'll be in trouble for a couple of reasons. We talk about fee compression in our business. I'm not worried about fee compression, but there will be margin compression because you'll have to do more and more for your clients in order to be able to maintain the fees and to be able to maintain the clients because it is competitive. AI is going to help us do that. And so we'll never terminate anyone here because of AI, but I might only hire 300 more people, not 500 more people. But it is everything we do here is through the lens of how do we connect everything, integrate everything? How does AI, do our onboarding for us? How does AI do our, when we do proposals? I've got analysts to do proposals. I'll still have analysts, but the AI ultimately will do the work. So yeah, it's really important, and I hope everybody's embracing that. Don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's going to be a great thing that you're going to. It's expensive. You got to have people because I certainly am not leading that charge. I mean, I really appreciate everybody's patience when I'm in a meeting because I'm asking the dumbest questions because I'm not super tech. It's oriented. I'm just not. I'm learning. But yeah, it's really important and everybody has to embrace that. We have to embrace it at the leadership level. Our people are embracing it. And we'll be a better firm and we'll actually be able to provide better service for our clients because of it.
Yeah. One of the ways that we evaluate the AI is what kind of force multiplier is it providing to us? It's no longer incremental. It's
Right.
orders of magnitude different. And Andy, like I'm on the bleeding edge with AI. I'm building tech to build tech, frankly, software that can be autonomously built. And I'm seeing it build software at rates of 44 times faster than humans.
It's crazy.
It's unreal.
It
And so I
is.
just keep imagining how many different ways it's going to be impacting people. And I'm not of the favor of that it should replace people. I think it should elevate people to better
100%.
jobs.
That's exactly right. The way we look at this exactly, if we can get rid of some of these more mundane tasks, what we want to be able to do is get those people to do more client facing, more interesting things, more revenue creative so that we can actually pay them more and they can be more engaged and happier. 100%. Yeah. And I would agree with that. We probably won't have as many people as an organization as we would have. This business
Mhm.
5 years from now would have been 1,000 people 5 years ago. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
be 500 people, but we'll still have lots and lots of people. We've got a bunch of people we've got to hire this year. We're not slowing down our hiring because we think AI is going to replace our workforce. It's not going to happen.
No, and I really think about this. Like people have said for the longest time, when printers came out, or PDF came out, or computers could do things digitally, we'll just have less paper. And you and I both know there's more paper than ever.
Right.
Why? Because you can do so many more things. And I think AI is creating different roles. In fact, I was talking earlier today with somebody how I built a virtual panel of people to help with some technology thing I have. And I named a role that has never existed in humanity because AI can develop such a thing and perform in such a way that nobody in human world would ever have time for or think about. And that creates a whole different spectrum of opportunity for us as humans to go do more valuable things with our lives. So I personally, I'm super excited about it. And I think it's just going to elevate the conversation. And I think as an advisor, you're going to see more and more tech come out to enable you to do 10 times more for your clients. And that'll become the de facto standard at some point.
Exactly. I think the problem for smaller advisors is that it's so important, but they are so overwhelmed. Look, I have a tech team, because when you have a business of this size and the revenue that we have, we spend millions of dollars a year on this. We
Yeah.
have 5 or 6 people. This is their job. 8 people. This is their job. One of the reasons, like when we talk to an independent RA and maybe they're $500 million, 10 years ago, a $500 million RA, I guess, was okay. It was, something that was sustainable. I would argue today, it's not. We talk to these young guys who are $1 billion. They want to go out on their own. Don't do it because you cannot build the tech stack. You don't have the ability. This stuff's coming at us so fast and it's
Yeah.
changing so quickly. You need teams of people. You need teams of consultants. And the only way you can do that is if you have, the cash to pay for it. And so I
Yeah.
do think that the business is going to continue to consolidate because of that. And there's going to be bigger and bigger firms because
Do you hear your team talking about adoption of technology with the filter of your company culture in place to make sure it's protecting your culture and your
yeah, I mean, so yes, but we encourage everybody to use AI, even if it's just when you're doing recipes, at home,
yeah.
or you're, we have our life coach here. Full disclosure is my wife. She was, and she's fantastic. So we have a coach here full time. works with clients and will also work with employees. And that's gratis to the firm. That's something that we want to help our clients with if they have issues or if we can help them improve their lives. So, she's on the management team like everybody else here. And my COO and my technology group, they're AI crazy, obviously, and really good. They make everybody. So we just did some redecorating in Florida. We had a decorator, but as she had to make choices, she's using AI. And she's like, let me show you something. And it literally moves the furniture around. It literally says, is this the right, piece to go on that table, or that the right lamp to go on that? It's crazy. But so we encourage our people to embrace it in everything they do in their lives because they need to. But we let them know, look, we love our people. We're not interested in replacing anybody. And when we bring acquisitions on, I tell them, look, I don't want you to fire anyone. We have services that we can provide, you can leverage. But that's not the point that you're going to reduce your headcount to improve our EBITDA margin on that book of business. Absolutely not. I might take some of those people and put them onto my P&L and pay you more. And that's fine because fair is fair. But at the end of the day, we do think that headcounts will go down some, but we're going to be able to provide so many more services. But our headcounts will only be just fewer people that we hire. It will not be.
Yeah, it's not going to go down from where you are. If you're growing,
we'll be twice the size we are today in 3 years. We just won't be three times the size. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And we'll be twice as the services we'll provide will be twice as many. Like I tell our guys every day, there are two things that are really important. Our client, our client experience has to get better. A year from now, my expectation is that we will be embarrassed by the work we do today. And I think our work is very good, but we will look back and say, do you remember when we couldn't do this and we could do that? And I'm already seeing it from last year to this year, the things we could do for clients. It's unbelievable. And the same thing, at the advisor side, the things that we can help our advisors do today, that experience has to get better. If you're not getting better, then you're in trouble because the world's getting better. My industry is getting better. Our competition is getting better. You cannot, I think a lifestyle advisor who's just hanging out is in big trouble.
Yeah. Honestly, this is one of the biggest challenges of running a tech company is that we have to constantly innovate and really see in advance of what people want and deliver it and just keep ahead of the curve on this stuff. Andy, I'm running out of time. And before I get to my last question, I want to ask you, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Sure. I guess my email, andy.schwartz@onepointbfg.com.
Okay.
And happy to get an email if I can help anybody. If you're an advisor out there and you need some help, feel free. Always nice to hear from another advisor.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay. So here's my favorite question to ask people. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
So I would say that 18 months ago, when I met Joe Duran, because I've always been the coach. So, I've always been the guy that everybody calls, and I've never really had a lot of time to seek a lot of other help. But what I've learned in the last 18 months, how I view the business, the world, managing people, all of it has been just an amazing experience for me. So I would say, not that he needs it because he's already got a big head, and I'm sure someone will bring to his attention I said it. But it's been a fantastic, experience. And I would say his whole team, Terry Callison, who's one of his partners, has been terrific, all of them. So that's been a really great growth experience for me. So that would be my most recent. And then I was born with a twin. And I would say that, one of my really, really true blessings, even in business, he's my partner, to have somebody that you trust completely. And we don't necessarily think the same, but you always can get an honest answer and a great sounding board. So I would say that for my life, long term, my life experience, my business experience, because we've been partners for the duration. My brother Scott, who's my partner now, one of my partners. Also has just been, amazingly helpful for me, in my career.
Oh, I love it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Look, I really admire somebody, I'm not calling you old, but somebody of your maturity, experience, the wealth of knowledge you have, you still are seeking knowledge and open to other people helping you get that knowledge. And that's something I aspire to at all times in my life. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. I think a blessing in life is when you don't think you're the smartest guy in the room, because if you think you're the smartest guy in the room and you can't learn, you're missing out on a lot. And and I know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. We're looking to get smarter and smarter people into the room. So I'm going to keep learning for sure.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I want to give a big thank you to Andy Schwartz, co-founder, CEO, and managing partner of 1 Point BFG Wealth Partners, for being on this episode of the Customer Wins. Go check out Andy's website at onepointbfg.com. It'll be linked in the show notes. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of the Customer Wins. Andy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Rich, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.